What if the very plants your grandparents sprayed with weed killer were actually some of the most powerful tools for restoring healthy blood sugar balance? What if the solution to creeping insulin resistance wasn't another prescription, but the resilient greens pushing through cracks in your sidewalk and backyard soil? Stick around, because number 7 on this list contains compounds that modern trials show can rival certain pharmaceutical approaches in supporting glucose uptake. And number 15 delivers omega-3 fatty acids in a form your body absorbs exceptionally well, something most backyard foragers never realize. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we connect cutting-edge nutrition science with the foods your body was designed to thrive on. Let's get into it. Here are 20 backyard weeds that destroy insulin resistance, ranked from remarkable to absolutely transformative. Dandelion, the lion's tooth that balances blood sugar. In medieval Europe, particularly across France and England during the Middle Ages, dandelion was a staple in monastic gardens and folk healing. Healers gathered the leaves and roots in spring, using them in tonics and salads to support liver health and overall vitality, without understanding the precise metabolic pathways involved. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Modern science highlights dandelion's rich polysaccharides and sesquiterpenes. These compounds help modulate glucose metabolism and enhance insulin sensitivity by influencing liver function and reducing oxidative stress. A study published in the journal Plants examined root extracts and noted their potential in supporting anti-diabetic activity through antioxidant mechanisms and effects on blood sugar regulation. Here's the traditional use. Harvest young leaves before flowering for salads, or dry roots for tea. Use 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried root per cup of hot water, steeped for 10 to 15 minutes. Source from clean, unsprayed areas, or grow your own. Avoid commercial supplements with fillers, or those harvested from polluted roadsides. Got forgotten because pharmaceutical companies focus on patentable synthetic compounds rather than abundant, natural plants that cannot be exclusively owned. Dandelion still offers what it offered for centuries since medieval European traditions. Stinging nettle, the burning herb that cools metabolic fire. Ancient Roman soldiers and European peasants from the Iron Age onward used nettle as a nourishing spring green and remedy. They whipped skin with fresh plants for circulation or brewed leaves into teas for general wellness and vitality in harsh northern climates. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Nettle contains quercetin, caffeic acid derivatives, and other polyphenols that support insulin signaling pathways. Clinical trials, including a randomized double-blind study in clinical laboratory, showed nettle leaf extract significantly lowered fasting blood glucose, postprandial glucose, and HbA1c in type 2 diabetes patients over 3 months when added to conventional care. Here's the traditional use. Wear gloves to harvest young tops in spring. Dry or steam to neutralize stingers. Then use in teas or as cooked greens like spinach. Choose pesticide-free patches. Avoid if you have certain kidney conditions without guidance. Got forgotten? Because industrial food systems and pharmaceutical interests prioritize processed solutions over free, abundant wild plants that resist patenting. Nettle still offers what it offered for millennia since ancient European folk practices. Burdock, the deep-rooted purifier of ancient Asia and Europe. In traditional Chinese medicine and among medieval European herbalists, burdock root was valued for cleansing and supporting skin and internal balance. Japanese and Scottish communities foraged it as a hardy vegetable in poor soils. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Burdock shows higher phenolic content and alpha-amylase inhibitory activity compared to some relatives. Research in Plants journal found burdock roots exhibited strong potential in anti-diabetic properties through antioxidants and enzyme modulation that slow carbohydrate breakdown. Here's the traditional use. Dig first-year roots in fall or early spring. Scrub, chop, and simmer into decoctions, or roast like a root vegetable. Source from clean soil. Avoid commercial powders that may be irradiated or low quality. Got forgotten because it grows wild without cultivation incentives and offers no profitable monopoly for large-scale industry. Burdock still offers what it offered for thousands of years since ancient Asian and European uses. Purslane, the succulent omega, source of ancient cultures. Ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and later European and Native American groups ate purslane as a cooling, nutritious green. It thrived in disturbed soils and provided sustenance during hot seasons. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Purslane stands out for alpha-linolenic acid, omega-3 content, antioxidants, and minerals that combat inflammation linked to insulin resistance. Its nutrients support better metabolic health and reduced oxidative stress affecting glucose handling. Here's the traditional use. Harvest fleshy stems and leaves from clean areas. Eat raw in salads for tangy crunch or lightly sauté. It grows easily. Avoid sprayed lawns or contaminated sites. Got forgotten because modern agriculture views it as competition rather than a nutrient-dense ally that requires no patents or expensive marketing. Purslane still offers what it offered for thousands of years since ancient Mediterranean and Asian traditions. Chickweed, the delicate cooler from European folk medicine. European herbal traditions from the Middle Ages used chickweed for cooling inflammatory conditions and as a nutritious spring pot herb in Britain and Germany. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry is now confirmed in clinical detail. Rich in vitamins, minerals, and flavonoids, chickweed supports gentle detoxification and provides nutrients that aid metabolic balance and reduce low-grade inflammation tied to poor insulin response. Here's the traditional use. Gather fresh, above-ground parts for salads or gentle teas. Use young plants. Source from your garden or clean wild spots. Wash thoroughly. Got forgotten? Because it appears as a minor lawn invader rather than a valuable wild edible promoted by industry, chickweed still offers what it offered for centuries in European ancestral diets. Broadleaf Plantain, the footprint herb of wandering peoples. Native Americans and ancient Europeans called it white man's footprint as it followed settlement. Used topically and internally for wounds and digestive support. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Plantain offers aucubin and other compounds with antioxidant and potential glucose-modulating effects that support gut health and reduce systemic inflammation impacting insulin sensitivity. Here's the traditional use. Harvest young leaves for teas or salads. Infuse 1 tablespoon dried in hot water. Avoid polluted areas. Got forgotten because common roadside plants offer little profit motive compared to branded supplements. Plantain still offers what it offered since ancient times across continents. Lamb's quarters, the nutrient powerhouse of native and European traditions. Native American tribes and European peasants relied on lamb's quarters as a superior spinach substitute, rich in minerals from disturbed soils. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Exceptionally high in magnesium, vitamins, and fiber that support insulin function and stable blood sugar through better mineral status and gut health. Here's the traditional use. Cook young leaves like spinach. Harvest before flowering from clean spots. Got forgotten as agriculture favored monocrops over wild, nutrient-dense greens. Lamb's quarters still offers what it offered for generations in ancestral foraging. Red clover, the blooming tonic from Celtic lands. Celtic and European folk healers used red clover blossoms for blood purification and women's health for centuries. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Isoflavones and antioxidants in red clover may support hormonal balance and reduce inflammation, indirectly aiding insulin sensitivity. Here's the traditional use. Dry blossoms for tea. Steep gently. Forage responsibly. Got forgotten due to focus on synthetic alternatives. Red clover still offers what it offered since ancient European times. Yellow dock, the root of iron and detox from traditional Europe. European and native healers used yellow dock roots for iron support and liver vitality. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Anthraquinones and minerals help digestion and mineral absorption, critical for metabolic health. Here's the traditional use. Simmer roots for decoction. Use sparingly. Got forgotten because natural bitters cannot be patented easily. Yellow dock still offers what it offered for hundreds of years. Chicory, the coffee relative from Mediterranean roots. Ancient Egyptians and Europeans used chicory roots as a digestive aid and coffee substitute. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Inulin and bitters support gut microbiome and liver function linked to better glucose control. Here's the traditional use. Roast roots for beverage or use leaves in salads. Got forgotten in favor of processed foods. Chicory still offers what it offered since ancient Mediterranean eras. If the pattern is becoming clear that real food grown in real soil does what expensive medications promise, then do me a favor and hit the like button right now. It helps this channel reach people who are searching for answers that actually work. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe and ring the bell. We cover ancestral nutrition, homestead health, and evidence-based natural healing every single week. Now, let's finish the list with the most powerful ones. Shepherd's purse, the heart-shaped stabilizer from ancient China and Europe. Used in traditional Chinese medicine and European folk practice for circulation and bleeding control. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Compounds support cardiovascular health and may aid metabolic stability through mild diuretic and anti-inflammatory actions. Here's the traditional use. Fresh or dried aerial parts in teas. Got forgotten as a common field plant. Shepherd's purse still offers what it offered for millennia. Ground ivy, the creeping mint of medieval England. Anglo-Saxon and medieval healers used it for respiratory and digestive issues. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Flavonoids support gentle detoxification and antioxidant protection. Here's the traditional use. Tea from leaves. Got forgotten in modern lawns. Ground ivy still offers ancestral benefits. Wood sorrel, the tangy shamrock of native and European foragers, used by indigenous peoples and Europeans for vitamin C and cooling. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Oxalic acid, in moderation, plus antioxidants, aid digestion and mineral delivery. Here's the traditional use. Small amounts in salads. Got forgotten as a tiny weed. Wood sorrel still offers what it offered historically. Cleavers, the sticky lymph mover from European herbalism. Traditional lymphatic tonic in Britain and beyond. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Supports detoxification pathways important for metabolic health. Here's the traditional use. Fresh juice or tea. Got forgotten despite abundance. Cleavers still offers centuries-old support. Wild mustard, the peppery cruciferous from ancient fields. Ancient Mediterranean and biblical-era greens with sulfur compounds. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Glucosinolates support detoxification enzymes and anti-inflammatory pathways tied to insulin health. Here's the traditional use. Young leaves in salads. Got forgotten as invasive. Wild mustard still offers what it offered since ancient times. Mullein, the soft-leaved respiratory ally with metabolic ties. European and Native American uses for lungs and mild diuretic effects. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Antioxidants reduce oxidative stress. Here's the traditional use. Leaf tea. Got forgotten outside respiratory focus. Mullein still offers broad traditional value. Wild lettuce, the bitter sedative from Roman times. Romans and Europeans used for calm and digestion. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Lactocarium compounds support nervous system and indirect metabolic calm. Here's the traditional use. Mild tea. Got forgotten as wild relative. Wild lettuce still offers ancient calming nutrition. Horsetail, the silica-rich ancient survivor. Used by herbalists for mineral support across cultures. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Silica aids connective tissue and mineral balance for metabolism. Here's the traditional use. Short-term tea. Got forgotten despite silica richness. Horsetail still offers prehistoric resilience. Self-heal, the all-healing prunella from China and Europe. Traditional wound and general tonic. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Rosmarinic acid supports anti-inflammatory effects. Here's the traditional use: tea or poultice. Got forgotten in favor of specifics. Self-Heal still offers what it offered for ages. Oregon grape / barberry relatives. The yellow-rooted antimicrobial. Traditional Native American and Chinese use of berberine plants for digestion and infection. Here's what they understood through generations of observation that modern biochemistry has now confirmed in clinical detail. Berberine activates AMPK, improving insulin sensitivity. Studies show it lowers blood glucose comparably to metformin in some metrics, reducing fasting glucose effectively. Here's the traditional use. Root preparations carefully. Consult expert sourcing. Got forgotten because natural alkaloids challenge synthetic drug dominance. Oregon grape relatives still offer what they offered since ancient indigenous and Asian traditions. If you made it all the way through, here is your complete framework. Support daily gentle detox and liver function with dandelion, burdock, and yellow dock. Nourish with mineral-rich greens like nettle, lamb's quarters, purslane, and chickweed for magnesium and omega support. Add bitter and anti-inflammatory allies such as plantain, chicory, and red clover for digestion and balance. Incorporate sulfur and enzyme helpers like wild mustard and Self-Heal for deeper metabolic resilience. Finally, use lymphatic and silica supporters like Cleavers and Horsetail sparingly for overall vitality. The pattern is unmistakable. What our ancestors forged instinctively, modern clinical research now measures in precise mechanisms and numbers. These backyard weeds bridge thousands of years of observed wisdom with today's laboratory confirmation of improved insulin signaling, reduced inflammation, and better glucose handling. Smash that like button if this changed the way you look at your lawn and garden. Drop a comment below and tell me which weed surprised you most. Are you Team Dandelion, Team Nettle, or Team Purslane? I read every single comment. And if you haven't subscribed to Homestead Roots yet, click that button now and ring the bell. We post every week, and we are just getting started. Because the most powerful medicine doesn't come in a bottle or a prescription. It grows in a garden and was eaten by the healthiest people who ever lived. And now you know exactly which plants to forage, grow, and prepare.